I'm going to show you how to make a reservoir gardening bucket out of a couple of buckets. So the first bucket is, well, here's a completed one. I'll show you that right up front, okay? So that one's completed, and that fits right in there, like so. It's that simple. It's a reservoir system, and the reservoir is down here, right down here. And that, you'll see in a minute how we make that. The wicking reservoir bucket system, and I'm trying to explain it from a side point of view before we show you the build. There's two buckets here. Here's one on the top and then one on the bottom. And the way it works, so the one on the top has dirt in it, and the one in the bottom, there's an air gap of a little bit over 3 inches, and that's got a water reservoir. And looking at the top view into the bucket, it would look like this. These are all drain holes, 5/16 drain holes, okay, all the way around. And then inside the bottom, right in the middle, is a wicking cup. And there's 5/16 holes in the bottom of that wicking cup, okay? And this is a side view of what it looks like in the bottom. The blue arrows point down. Those are the drains. So the dirt is right above the blue arrows. So the dirt drains down. So like if it rains and the bucket collects too much water, well then it'll drain. The soil will allow it to drain into the reservoir. And the reservoir has a drain hole. So it never gets more than this full right here at the bottom of the 3/8 inch drain hole. So the soil drains into the reservoir, and the reservoir, the green arrows, suck up, the soil is in that cup as well at the very bottom, this cup right here. You fill the whole bucket up with soil. So the water comes in, and there's also four groups of 4, so a total of 16 1/8 inch or wicking holes on the sides of the cup, as well as the 5/16 holes in the bottom. So the water flows in and soaks up into the dirt, and then it waters the plant from underneath. So let's go ahead and make this bucket. So we've got the bucket. We're going to drill our big hole first. These are kind of fragile, they crack. I've cracked one before, and so we want to be careful. Ideally, you want to get it as close to the center as possible and start out slow. This bit will catch just like that. And if you're not careful, you'll bust the bucket, or you can snap your wrist. So just be careful. What I usually do, let me get the drills out of the way. I usually grab the bucket with my feet, okay, and then I pull the drill back and then carefully drill it in. I have drill settings slow. This part, there's no rush. See how it caught there? But that's a pretty nice hole. It works out pretty good. Now the next step is we want to drill a hole, a 7/8 hole for the PVC pipe. This is where the water pipe goes down below into the reservoir. So it's pretty simple. I've got just a spade bit, and then what I do is I line it up with the edge as close as I can. What I want to do is orient it to the middle of the handle. So here it is, one side, the other side. So right here, I'm going to orient it. This isn't rocket science, it's just simple, but it's just trying to make life easier for me. Okay, here we go. there's that. So now we've got the hole where we water it, and then there will be a reservoir. Now for the purpose of this pipe is to go all the way down into the bottom reservoir. So when you add water, you put it in here and it ends up in the bottom. And then now the next step is, okay, first hole was 3 1/4 inch. Okay, 3 1/4 inch. Next one was 7/8. Now we're going to Swiss cheese it with 5/16. So here we go. Oh, one thing I want to caution you on, these buckets, again, they're fairly thin. The material's thin, and it's kind of brittle. So go slow with your drill. Don't try and do it too fast. There we go. It's now got enough drain holes, kind of evenly spaced all the way around. So now you see the inside of the bucket. Let's actually measure that. Okay, so here's another bucket. And so this guy goes inside like so. And then you got your watering pipe that fits in there snugly. And you don't want to have a problem with the soil getting through. Okay, so you've got your small holes, your 5/16 holes, that's big enough, and then the soil will allow the water to pass through and fill up that reservoir. But what keeps that reservoir from getting overflowed? Well, we'll put what's called a weep hole in it. And again, since I'm watering from here, I want to see what I'm doing, so I'm going to put the weep hole on the bucket, on the bottom bucket, again, from here to here, right in the middle. So I'll line them up, and then when I service this and I put water in here, I can watch the weep hole from right where I'm watering. Just a little simple trick. And then what we need to do is measure that, how deep that is. So I'm measuring it, it's right at 3 inches. Where I want to put my weep hole is from the bottom of the bucket, the inside of the bottom of the bucket, 2 3/4 at the center line. That one's kind of important to get right. If you get a little bit lower, that's okay, you just lose reservoir space. So I'm trying to get as much reservoir as I can. Actually, I'm going to build a jig because I've got 16 of these to make. Weep hole is going to be 3/8, 5/16, 3 1/4, and 7/8. Okay, now I'm going to mass production, so to speak, with these buckets. Three inches from the bottom of this to the center of my hole. Okay, well, that peak right there is almost perfect. It varies just a little bit on all those different buckets I have laid out, but basically I just hit that with the point of my spade bit, zip it in there, and I should be really right on. I'll show you in a second. Okay, so there's our weep hole. Now if we look at that, right there. Can you see it? So that's about as good as you can get right there. cutting a relief so the water can flow out of the pipe, even if it's sitting flat on the bottom of the bucket. That is a little too small for the cup. And since I want it fairly tight, I'm going to use the torch to heat up the circle there, and then set this in when it's kind of molten. Watch how I do it. First I fire up the torch. I'd set the torch on a low temperature, and it's going. And you can see the bucket turn kind of glossy in there. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but you want to work it about a ½ an inch in, maybe 3/4 of an inch in, where you can see the change in the plastic. Keep the torch moving. You don't want to start a fire, but you want to get the plastic to where it gets like kind of wavy a little bit and molten. There it is, wavy and molten. We take our fluted cup and we push it in there. It pushes in real nice. Now we're going to let it cool down. I've pulled the bucket out, and now you can see what it looks like here. It's still pretty hot, but it's like a super tight fit. And then I'm going to drill holes along these flutes, and then big ones in the bottom, and they'll draw the moisture up. Cut the cups shorter, which means we cut down to 3 1/4. Means we cut about that much off. And it's a little tricky. You figure out how you're going to cut that off. Show you how to drill these. I'm sure you can figure it out, but my bit is brand new. It's sharp. Okay, so here's 5/16, and I'm going to drill 5 holes around. I'm going to try and space them out, and then 1 hole in the middle. Now the trick is just use the weight of the drill. Don't push at all. Otherwise you'll end up with a broken cup. So there's kind of simple 1/8 inch drill bit. And it's pretty simple. You only go about halfway up. Start at the very bottom. So now I'm going to go to the opposite side, which is right here. So there's the cup drilled. And you take your finger and scrape off the burrs. And there you go. There's your cup. Now I'll cut it to the right dimension. So there you go. Now we scrape off that. Okay. There's my cup all ready to go. Well, there you have it. The reservoir bucket system with a drain hole there. It's a double bucket. And you can see the bottom there, and you see how it goes together.